I would say that they were descendants of who the Anunnaki made, and that a lot of people today are more than likely going to be descendants of the Cabbage Patch program, where there is a lot of evidence to support that they repopulated after 1776 by cloning.
So where do babies come from? In the early 1900s, the most common answer given to children would simply be that the stork would bring the babies, or that they were found in a cabbage patch. But why would babies be found in cabbage patches?
When the people of Europe overflowed into the rest of the world between the 16th and 19th centuries, the indigenous population of most colonized lands went under.
The legend of the Cabbage Patch Kids involves a young boy named Xavier who meets a mystical fairy bunny bee creature, so a hybrid or chimera. And he follows this bunny bee through a secret tunnel behind a waterfall. On the other side of this waterfall, he finds that babies are being produced in a cabbage patch. The stork, known as Colonel Casey, would then come and pick up the babies. He even has his own uniform. So he's a worker, a soldier, as well as the Cabbage Patch Kids' official historian that would then deliver the babies to their new homes.
Compounding this is the difficulty people have, your average person like me, when you go to do your family tree on Ancestry.com, that once you get back past the 1800s, the information you've got is very difficult to prove. We don't know what we're reading. There are no newspaper articles supporting anything. There's no photographic evidence of anything. People will say, well, they refer to parish records, but unless you physically go into the church itself and find. So I think that for many of us, our story and our ancestors and our family tree doesn't go back very far at all. And that was a race of people that descended from the creation, I suppose, of the Anunnaki, the people that they made to mine and mine gold for them and obey their instructions. I think that they were descending from them, and I don't think that there are many of them around today. I think we are a different civilization entirely.
Okay. And so where does the white skin come from? And has that become so prevalent because of cloning?
Yeah, well, there's research into the Breatharians that were part of the Tartarian culture. And these were people that actually, they say that a little bit like a plant does, that they harnessed their energy from sunlight, and that all they needed was water and direct sunlight. They didn't eat. And that is why they built such incredible structures throughout the world that have no toilets. Now, you could argue that the Romans had toilets, but then you could argue that may well have been a different race of people altogether.
There's a category of postcards that deserves its own name and label, but it doesn't seem very well known, as there are no websites or videos explaining this topic. We shall call it the mystery of the repopulation postcards. In order to understand why we've labeled them repopulation postcards, a thorough understanding of resets, Tartaria, orphan trains, incubators, asylums, and oddfellows will be necessary. These cards depict babies being grown. There are many different styles within this category. One of the most interesting is the Cabbage Patch babies, a variety of themes involving growing babies. Babies in a nest. Babies in eggs being hatched. Then the babies arrive on the train.
So the darker skin, which you would need to be able to operate or function in this way, was actually capable of actually getting energy from the sun without having to eat. And if you did eat in very, very small quantities and not very regularly. So I think that they were a lot darker and their skin was able to do that. And that's certainly that's been backed up for me by so many different people, referring to so many examples of tribes still alive and well doing that right now, and people who have also done it, but none of them are white. None of them are white. None of them are white.
Okay,
it's not something we're capable of doing. We just burn.
Yes, I know. So has the white skin come from the Anunnaki?
The bunny bee character also is a hybrid creature of two animals that both symbolize rebirth and resurrection on a mass scale. As we know, rabbits reproduce in droves, and the bee symbolism makes me think of a hive, or a queen or source where all the offsprings originate from. It would seem that this is some sort of reference to babies being created in a lab on a mass scale.
See, when them Cabbage Patch dolls came here, meaning that those children with no soul, they came in all colors. And they came here to destroy how we really live.
Why were there so many orphans? The most common answer will be, the baby boom. But this didn't happen until 1946 to 1964. These postcards are from 1890 to 1910. And there's really no explanation for the burst of orphans that we see being brought into the United States, or the amount of orphanages and asylums that exist that no longer seem to be necessary. Could the baby boom narrative be a way to sweep this part of history under the rug? The orphanages were all shut down, and after the 60s, people just stopped having babies and getting married after World War II, according to the narrative. Then there were the incubators of the 1900s. It's difficult to keep premature babies alive with modern technology, yet they were doing this back in 1835 in Europe. They turned this into a sideshow, where at the world fairs, they would show off these child hatcheries, these incubators of live children. And for some reason, the royals would come and witness these events.
Then you start to go into this whole thing with the orphan trains and the orphan incubators and the baby incubators and all this really weird stuff. And you have to wonder where all the parents are. Number one, that's a question to ask. Number two, there were lots of experimental injections put into the people from the 1700s to 1800s, which probably removed a lot of the parents from that. And number three, you get into technology of potential of babies being grown. And so once again, if someone doesn't have a memory, if you think of people as clones, and you get into this whole rabbit hole of this and NPCs and clones, well then there's people who've been put into this realm, and they're here, and they're existing, and they wouldn't really have history. Because even when I look at the heritage of many people, and I go through family lineage, and I say, well, who's your family from, and whatever, they usually say, really, my dad's dad was gone. It was just my dad's mom. You always see a missing parent or no parents. And then you sit there and think, so what, they just send them across the ocean on a ship? There's something strange going on, and it's a rabbit hole.
Why so many orphans? Were these orphans taken from their families? Were they trained to instruct a new generation of genetically created babies?
So that I do think that white people, certainly people like me, are a result of cloning and genetically modified. Cloning that happened after the reset.